Good evening! On February 1st, in 2025, the world witnessed a pivotal moment in global trade dynamics. President Donald Trump, standing at the White House press briefing room, announced sweeping new tariffs, a 25% levy on all imports from Canada and Mexico, and a 10% tariff on goods from China. Ladies and gentlemen, President Trump began, today marks a turning point for the United States. No longer will we stand idly by while our economy is exploited. Starting immediately, we are imposing a 25% tariff on all imports from Canada and Mexico and a 10% tariff on goods from China. The announcement sent immediate shockwaves through financial markets. Within hours, the Dow Jones Industrial Average plummeted, and similar declines rippled across European and Asian markets. Investors reacted swiftly, fearing the onset of a global trade war. In Ottawa, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau responded promptly, condemning the tariffs as unjustified and damaging to the economic partnership we've cultivated for decades. Canada imposed retaliatory tariffs on American goods, including alcohol and household appliances. The province of Ontario escalated tensions further by removing American-made alcoholic beverages from store shelves. Meanwhile, Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum addressed her nation, labeling the U.S. tariffs as an affront to our economic sovereignty. In retaliation, Mexico enacted equivalent tariffs on American agricultural and industrial products, striking at the heart of key U.S. export sectors. China's reaction was swift and firm. The Chinese Foreign Ministry held an emergency press conference, declaring the U.S. tariffs a violation of World Trade Organization rules. Beijing announced its intention to challenge the measures legally and implement countermeasures to protect its interests. The economic repercussions were immediate. U.S. consumers faced rising prices for imported goods, from fruits and vegetables to automobiles. Small businesses struggled with disrupted supply chains, and farmers in the Midwest expressed growing concerns about lost export markets. Despite mounting criticism, President Trump remained steadfast. At a rally in Michigan, he declared, "We will win this trade war because we have the strongest economy in the world." His supporters cheered, but economists warned of potential long-term damage. Dr. Emily Sanders, a leading economist, stated on CNN, "While the intention might be to protect American industries, the reality is far more complex. These tariffs could trigger a recession with higher consumer prices and job losses in sectors reliant on international trade." Global leaders expressed concern. The European Union emphasized the need for multilateral dialogue, while French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz warned against escalating protectionism. In Washington, the political climate grew tense. Congressional hearings highlighted the adverse effects on businesses and farmers. Despite bipartisan criticism, President Trump defended his decision in an exclusive interview, stating, "Leadership isn't about being popular, it's about making tough decisions. History will judge me as the president who stood up for America." The immediate economic repercussions have been nothing short of seismic. Global markets, already volatile, have experienced extreme fluctuations. The Dow Jones Industrial Average has seen historic drops, with daily swings of over 1,000 points becoming the norm. In Asia, the Nikkei and Hang Seng indexes have mirrored this instability, reflecting the interconnected nature of the modern global economy. In the heartland of America, the impact is palpable. Farmers in Iowa, once the backbone of Trump's political base, are facing devastating losses. Soybean prices have plummeted due to the loss of Chinese markets, leading to fields left unharvested and silos brimming with unsold crops. John Peterson, a third-generation farmer, shared his plight. "We believed in the promise of America first, but now we're struggling to keep our farms afloat." Manufacturing sectors have not been spared. Automakers, reliant on complex global supply chains, are grappling with increased production costs due to tariffs on imported parts. Companies like General Motors and Ford have announced plant closures and layoffs, citing the unsustainable cost environment. This has led to rising unemployment rates in traditionally industrial regions, adding to the growing discontent among American workers. Consumer goods have also felt the pinch. everyday products from electronics to household items have seen price hikes. The increased costs have been passed down to consumers, leading to a decline in purchasing power and a rise in inflation. Retailers are reporting decreased sales, with small businesses particularly hard hit by the dual pressures of higher costs and reduced demand. On the international front, the retaliatory measures from Canada, Mexico, and China have been both strategic and impactful. Canada's tariffs on American dairy and alcoholic beverages have significantly affected U.S. exports, with Wisconsin dairy farmers and Kentucky bourbon producers feeling the brunt. Mexico's focus on agricultural products has devastated U.S. corn and pork exports, further straining rural economies. China's approach has been multifaceted. In addition to imposing tariffs on key American exports, China has sought to diversify its import sources, establishing new trade agreements with countries in South America and Africa. This strategic pivot not only mitigates the impact of U.S. tariffs, but also strengthens China's global economic influence. Diplomatically, the trade war has strained relationships between the U.S. and its traditional allies. The European Union, initially cautious, has grown increasingly vocal in its criticism. French President Emmanuel Macron, in a speech at the European Parliament, stated, "Protectionism is not the answer. We must stand united against policies that threaten the stability of the global economy." In response, the EU has implemented its own set of tariffs targeting American goods, including motorcycles, jeans, and whiskey, symbolic products tied to American culture and identity. These measures are designed to exert political pressure while minimizing economic harm to European industries. As the trade conflict deepens, new alliances are forming. The Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, CPTPP, initially sidelined by the U.S. withdrawal, has gained renewed momentum. Countries within the pact have strengthened economic ties, reducing their reliance on American markets. The economic fallout has also prompted introspection within the United States. Bipartisan calls for reevaluating trade policies have grown louder, with both Republican and Democratic lawmakers questioning the long-term strategy. Senate hearings have featured testimonies from economists, business leaders, and affected workers, painting a grim picture of the trade war's domestic impact. Despite the mounting evidence, President Trump remains unwavering. In a series of tweets, he asserted, "The tariffs are working. We are bringing back jobs, protecting our industries, and standing up to unfair trade practices. America will emerge stronger than ever." However, economic indicators tell a different story. GDP growth has slowed, consumer confidence has dipped, and key sectors are in decline. The Federal Reserve has responded with interest rate adjustments in an attempt to stabilize the economy, but the uncertainty surrounding trade policies continues to undermine recovery efforts. Globally, the trade war has reshaped economic dynamics. Emerging markets, once dependent on U.S. trade, are seeking new partners. China's Belt and Road Initiative has expanded its reach, offering infrastructure investments and trade opportunities to countries eager to diversify their economic relationships. In Ottawa, Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau wasted no time in addressing the nation. Standing before a packed press room with the Canadian flag prominently displayed behind him, Trudeau's voice was steady but firm. Canada views these tariffs as unjustified and damaging to the economic partnership we've cultivated for decades. We will respond firmly to protect Canadian interests. Trudeau's government quickly implemented retaliatory tariffs targeting U.S. exports, including aluminum, steel, and agricultural products like apples and pork. These measures were carefully chosen to hit key U.S. industries, particularly in states that have been politically supportive of Trump. The strategic nature of these tariffs wasn't lost on analysts who noted that Canada aimed to exert maximum political pressure while safeguarding its own economic stability. Meanwhile, in Mexico City, President Claudia Sheinbaum convened an emergency session with top economic advisors and government officials. Her response was equally resolute. In a nationally televised address, Sheinbaum declared, "These tariffs are an affront to our economic sovereignty." Mexico will not be intimidated. Effective immediately, we are imposing reciprocal tariffs on U.S. agricultural products and industrial goods. Mexico's list of targeted goods included corn, soybeans, and whiskey, products critical to the American heartland. The choice of these goods was not accidental. It was a calculated move to hit Trump's political base, increasing domestic pressure on the U.S. administration. Across the Pacific, China's response was swift and multifaceted. The Chinese Foreign Ministry held an emergency press conference where the spokesperson sternly declared the United States' unilateral actions violate World Trade Organization rules. China will take necessary countermeasures to safeguard its interests. China imposed tariffs on American soybeans, aircraft, and automobiles, among other products. This was a strategic blow, targeting industries that heavily relied on Chinese markets. The impact was immediate, with American farmers expressing deep concerns over lost export opportunities. In the heartland of the U.S., once loyal Trump supporters began to question the administration's trade policies. International organizations also voiced their concerns. The World Trade Organization, or WTO, released a statement emphasizing the importance of adhering to established trade rules and warning against the dangers of escalating protectionist measures. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, projected that prolonged trade tensions could slow global economic growth, with developing countries being the most vulnerable. As the trade war escalated, global markets experienced increased volatility. The New York Stock Exchange saw sharp declines, with technology and automotive sectors taking the biggest hits. In Europe, the FTSE 100 and DAX indices mirrored these losses, reflecting fears of a global economic slowdown. In Washington, the political landscape grew increasingly tense. Congressional hearings were held, featuring testimonies from business leaders, economists, and representatives from affected industries. Farmers in particular voiced their frustrations. We're losing our markets, said John Peterson, a soybean farmer from Iowa. We supported the president because he promised to fight for us, but these tariffs are hurting our livelihoods. Despite mounting domestic pressure, Trump remained defiant. At a rally in Ohio, he declared, "We will win this trade war because we have the strongest economy in the world. We're fighting for American jobs, American families, and American futures." His supporters cheered, but the growing economic uncertainty cast a shadow over the event. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, diplomatic channels were working overtime. U.S. trade representatives engaged in tense negotiations with counterparts from Canada, Mexico, and China. These meetings were marked by heated exchanges, with each side unwilling to concede significant ground. In Brussels, the European Union held an emergency summit to discuss the implications of the U.S. tariffs. French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz issued a joint statement emphasizing the need for unity within the EU and warning against the dangers of a fragmented global trading system. Protectionism benefits no one, Macron stated. We must work together to find solutions that promote fair and open trade. Back in the U.S., economists continue to sound the alarm. Dr. Emily Sanders, a leading economic analyst, appeared on multiple news networks warning, while the intention might be to protect American industries, the reality is far more complex. These tariffs could trigger a recession, with higher consumer prices and job losses in sectors reliant on international trade.